Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 16.5 RC or release candidate released today to developers and public beta testers. iOS 16.5 RC is now available at the same time everywhere around the world, again if you're a developer or public beta tester, and it's available on the iPhone 8, 8 Plus, all the way up to the iPhone 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max. Now this is going to be a very large install, as you can see here, 5.47 gigabytes on my 14 Pro Max, and about 5 gigabytes or so on all the devices you'll see here. Also, Apple released a bunch of different updates: iPadOS 16.5 RC, macOS 13.4 RC, watchOS 9.5 RC, tvOS and HomePod OS 16.5 RC, and also updates for previous devices. So iOS 15.7.6 RC, as well as the iPad version, and also macOS 11.7.7 RC5 and macOS 12.6.6 RC5. All of those are available right now for developers. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the build number and we'll talk about what's new. So we'll go to Settings, then we'll go to General, then About. Now, as you can see, the build number is 20F65, and this particular build does include some new features and changes. Now, if you're a beta tester wondering how to get off of the beta version and stay on a stable public version, just go to your beta updates after the final version comes out and switch this to off where it has beta updates. Otherwise, you'll continue to get betas. Now, as far as what's new, well, there is no new modem update in this if you've been updating to the previous betas. So since beta 3, we've had the same modem update of 1.70.02. That's on the 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max. The version can vary depending on what version you're on or what device you're on. Now, as far as the new features, well, there's quite a few different small changes this time around. The first one is, if we go into News, we have a new My Sports section. So you'll see a new home for sports. You've got a little tag here that pops up. It says get news, scores, schedules, and more from your favorite teams. And also, if that game is going on, you can tap on this and open it in Apple TV. So tap on it, it will open in Apple TV where it will play the game. You can watch it if it's available and then go through and watch all of your favorite games. So that's available. And also in the News app, you have a tab for all sports. So under the All Sports section, you can select different sports that you're interested in, whether that's NFL, tennis, boxing, pro wrestling, running, or even the Olympics. Not everything's included here, but hopefully they'll continue to update this. Now we have a new wallpaper to go along with Apple's announcement of the Apple Watch Pride Edition, which celebrates the LGBTQ+ community. You can see the Apple Watch band, the watch face there, and we also can see the new wallpaper if we go into our lock screen and go to wallpapers. So let's go ahead and go into that section. And as you can see, there's an actual new section here as well. This was added with Beta 4, and it says designed with the colors of the Pride flag to celebrate the LGBTQ+ community. And you can see this is the new wallpaper here, and if we add this, it has a really neat transition. So we'll go ahead and hit done here. And if we go into the lock screen and swipe out of it, there's a really nice transition here. So I'm not a huge fan of the wallpaper design itself. Some of the previous ones were a little nicer, I think, but the animation is really nice, and hopefully that means we're going to get more animated wallpaper in the future. They also updated the watch band with the same thing, as you can see here, where there's a Pride celebration watch face. So you can get that now once it's released with watchOS 9.5. So that will be available then. Now, also one of the new features is you're able to install updates with less than 50% battery life. So if you have under 50%, you'll no longer have to plug in your phone down to about 20% so you can actually charge it. So you'll see here I have 37% on the iPad, and I was able to install the update without plugging it in or anything like that. So that's a new feature. Apple hasn't really said that they're doing that, but it is something that's new. Now, there's some bug fixes in this update as well. They've fixed an issue where Spotlight could become unresponsive. Many people have complained about the keyboard not showing up or it just not working in general. Whether you're on the main screen, the lock screen here, it seems to be working nice and fast, as you would expect this time around. It also addresses an issue with CarPlay. So if we connect a CarPlay device, now I have a CarPlay device, let's go ahead and plug it in here, wait for it to connect, and one of the issues they've addressed has to do with podcasts. So if you go into podcasts, prior to this, podcasts sometimes wouldn't load the content properly. Now it should work properly. Whether you go to browse, look for something new, or go into your library, everything should work as expected. Go into your shows, everything should load as you would expect. Finally, Apple's addressing some issues with this. Hopefully it resolves some other ones as well, but at least they're addressing this issue. Now they've also addressed an issue that has to do with screen time. Now, I haven't heard this from other people as it being a problem, but apparently it is, where they fixed an issue when you're using screen time where it wouldn't sometimes sync across different devices. So if you go into screen time and if you turn it on, it should sync across your iPhone, your iPad, and other devices you have as well. Sometimes it wasn't doing that. That should be fixed with this update. Now, there's also some bugs that are still remaining. In particular, while they fixed the spotlight bug, one issue they haven't fixed has to do with notifications. It's very jumpy sometimes. You'll see there, it just fills in, it's not very smooth, and maybe it's because they're going to fully redo this with iOS 17. We don't really know for sure, but it's definitely very jumpy and not smooth as you would expect. It's a minor bug, but it is something that's there. Also, that medicine crashing bug I've shown you before is still there under Health. So if we go to Health, go to Browse, go to Medications, I have just an example set up. If you tap on any of the log files here, it crashes the app every single time. Again, I've reported it in feedback, but they haven't fixed it yet. But again, it will crash over and over. It hasn't been resolved in the release candidate for some reason. Now, also, there's supposed to be security updates with this update. Now, Apple doesn't typically tell us what they are until they release it to the public. So if we go to Apple's security website, the last one has to do with the Beats and AirPods firmware updates. So Beats 5B66, tvOS 16.4.1, and AirPods firmware update 5E133. We don't have anything that's newer than that, but once this is released to the public, we should see some updates there. Also, if we go into the release notes under the Feedback app, wait for it to load, go to our recent activity, you'll see here that we have some new notes for RC. These are the same notes we've had for the past couple of betas, Beta 3 and Beta 4. So the same things are fixed as far as Matter accessories, and the new feature where a shared administrator in a home is now able to pair and add Matter accessories. These have not been updated for the past couple of betas, and I wish they would update them every single time. Apple also announced something that's really great on iPad today, and this was a bit of a surprise, but if we go to Apple's website, you can see it here where they're bringing Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro to iPad. This is something I've wanted for a very long time, and it has additional features that utilize the Apple Pencil to help you draw titles and more. This isn't available just yet, but will be available on May 23rd. It's $5 a month, and also you can pay for that yearly at $50 a year. This has some people upset, but the app on the Mac is about $300 and you buy it once. So maybe they'll switch to that model month to month on Mac. Hopefully they don't, but at least we'll finally have Final Cut Pro on iPad and Logic Pro. But it does require an M1 processor or M2 processor. It's not available for older iPads. So I'll be sure to try that out once it's available. One other thing I wanted to mention has to do with macOS 13.4. The code actually hints at some new headphones. So if we go into Twitter, you can see here that Aaron P613 said exclusive macOS 13.4 RC hints at new Beats headset called Beats Studio Pro. So he gives the model number here. It was found within the code, and maybe we'll see those very, very soon. Now, we're still waiting for some updated features, and we haven't seen those. The updated next-gen CarPlay, heavily updated accessibility modes, as well as iMessage contact key verification. It looks like Apple's probably keeping at least some of these for iOS 17 or possibly the next version. Now, as far as overall performance in this update, so far it seems to be pretty good. ProMotion is nice and fast. I haven't seen any slowdowns here, and the same is true on older devices, such as the iPhone 11. So we can go into Minecraft and resume this. I'll just show you how fast it resumes. Seems to be okay here. The frame rates were smooth when I tried this before, and it seems to work as expected. But that's nice and fast. And the overall experience of loading different apps and things seem to be fast as well, whether that's music, scrolling, or anything else. I don't see a whole lot of stuttering or slowdowns going on here, so that's great news. However, the overall heat of the device is a bit intense at first. Apple must be processing a lot in the background, as anytime there's a large install, such as 5 gigabytes, it has to process all that data. So it is a little bit warm. It's cooling down now, but it has to process it. It's completely normal. Apple manages the heat, but I just wanted to make you aware that maybe for the first couple of hours or days, it could be a little bit warmer than normal, as it may be processing something in the background. It only took about an hour and a half for mine to stop being warm, though. Now, as far as the overall battery life, that's going to take a few days to measure for sure. We'll go into battery health and charging. You'll see I'm down to 97% capacity, and you can see the overall charge cycles here on the left from Coconut Battery. And if we take a look at the last 10 days, it hasn't been great for me, but it really wasn't on any previous version either. I have some issues with this, but I had 3 hours and 53 minutes of screen active time and 8 hours and 21 minutes of screen idle time. That's using about 70% of the battery or so. Today has actually been 3 hours and 33 minutes, and I haven't even used 50%. So it definitely seems a little better than before, but again, it will take a few days to know this, and be sure to check back on the weekend for the follow-up where we talk about more as far as battery life, performance, and more. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 16.5 RC, if you've been holding off through the betas, this is the time to install it, as this should be the final version. While we could have an RC2 later on, this most likely is the final, and as far as that goes, it should be fairly stable. However, if you'd want to wait till the public release, you definitely can do that. We typically expect those on Mondays, so I would expect it on Monday the 15th. Typically, that's what Apple does every year. And also they mentioned that the Pride Wallpaper coming out next week requires iOS 16.5. So if we go back to that website, go to the very bottom here, you can see here that it says the new Pride Celebration watch face and iPhone wallpaper will be available next week and requires watchOS 9.5 and iOS 16.5. So we definitely expect it next week. Usually it's a Monday, so I would say the 15th. It could be later, but usually that's the case. Then we'll move on to iOS 16.6 Beta 1. People have seen that in testing in the analytics on websites, so maybe Tuesday or Wednesday we'll see that. Maybe we won't, but then just a few weeks after that, on June 5th, we'll see iOS 17 Beta 1. We'll have concurrent betas going on with iOS 16.6 most likely and iOS 17 betas. So with iOS 17, we're expecting a lot of different updates, things with the Control Center, health app updates, Apple Music lyrics possibly on the lock screen, and much, much more. So a lot of different changes we're expecting. So hopefully we'll see some really great features and, of course, stability overall. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the benchmarks. I ran this originally when it was quite warm. Now that it's cooled down, let me run it and see what we get. And as you can see, the single core score is 2,527. If we compare that with last time, it's 2,513. And then multi-core is 6,127 compared to 6,166. So a little bit better in single core, a little bit worse in multi-core. It's good enough that you really won't notice any difference. And it could even increase. As I've mentioned, it was a little bit warm before. So definitely it could get a little bit better. Let me know if you've found anything else in iOS 16.5. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And of course, if you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.